What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Buffalo Commander. We are your hosts, Alex and Kevin. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, hit the notification bell on your way in. What's up, man?
What's up, man? Finally got
Nothing
my
much.
PC back up and running since you and Derek and the squad, sent a malicious cyber attack on me
Yeah, we went
on
live and
draft
we
night.
we cyber attacked Kevin, and then I accidentally deleted the live video after the fact. So that was a super success for us.
Yeah,
Didn't
and
go well.
obviously, I think most people know this to follow football and the draft. You can just look on Twitter and kind of get the result of the pick before it comes on the TV.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
go but my dumbass started to do that kind of late in our draft and us picking or just guessing who it was going to be.
hmm
And I thought I was a genius because I was doing that, and then it turns out that that's what you guys were all doing the whole time.
yeah. So the game was pick the pick before it happens. Derek, who won't admit it, lied first.
Well, he's still not
I
admitted.
caught him. I saw him looking at his phone. I was like, this dude got 3 picks in a row. There's no
Yeah,
way he did that in the back of the round. So I started doing it. He stopped because you could tell he was like, oh, I've
yeah,
been caught. I can't be too obvious. And then
yeah.
you started doing it, and I noticed you doing the same thing. And I'm like, I'm just gonna leave it out. And then we called you out on it and blamed it on you.
Oh, Cal was well. My biggest mistake was I did it on a dude that was like out of nowhere, like
Yeah.
Kurtz, I think was his name, something
No,
Kurtz,
it was
Yvonne Curse or
it
something
was
like
no, it
that.
was it was Jared Verse.
Jared Verse,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was like,
And it's like
what?
everybody's
How
like,
did he
"Where did
get
you get
that?
that from?" And I was like, "I don't know." And then
Yeah. It was like I had
So,
no clue.
yeah, that was dumb. I needed to be smarter, but anyway, it was a good time. Good time.
So today we'll go over draft halls, where we see the team, the projection, like where they fit in the future of the team this year. Um, and then kind of just break it down a little bit and give our take on some of the players we chose and why we feel like they're a good fit or why they're not. I'm going to try to err on the side of positivity because I don't think you should criticize these guys until they show who they are in the NFL. There's a
Yeah,
lot of things that happen in college that impact a player's ability to be successful or not. Especially like, for instance, like Jaden Daniels, a lot of his success, with the lack of success before in Arizona State could be just
yeah,
because of the lack of weapons or whatever it may be, or offensive scheme. So we're going to go into that a little bit too, and just kind of shed some light on some optimism here, and then kind of go from there. Did you want me to go into my breakdown first, or what are you thinking?
yeah. You go ahead with the Bills.
Okay. Before we start, I want to get into some new signings we had today too. Deion Jones was signed yesterday. I think he's just a depth linebacker. Don't, he had a little stretch about 3 years ago where he was good. I think he's just there to challenge the back end roster guys, and if he steps up and kind of regains form, he could end up being some sort of a backup middle linebacker or weak side or whatever he ends up being. We got Chase Claypool today. Did you hear about that?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
He hasn't been good in 2 years, but I'm not a huge fan of his impact that he could potentially have on the work ethic of our young rookie wide receiver. But I think he's probably a little too headstrong to actually take heed from a guy like Chase Claypool. So I don't think it's a huge issue, but I don't love the fit. We're trying to build this team out like a wide receiver room, like a basketball team. And I think it's fair to say we're missing one element. That's a deep down the field speed threat. And then we added another big slot kind of player. That's what I kind of consider Chase Claypool. So not sure of the
Yeah.
fit. He's probably another back end guy that competes. And then Dwayne Smoot, who's going to be another competitor probably with Case Toohill and trying to kind of shore up that last spot. There's going to be some big competitions at defensive end and wide receiver going into preseason, I believe. And then Quintez Cephas was signed also as kind of a throwaway, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, so as far as the draft goes, we started off with pick 28, and when we got to 28, we had a trade with the Kansas City Chiefs. I want to kind of give my thoughts on that first and foremost. I do think that it's always scary to trade with your rival, But these teams are not concerned with trading with their rivals. They're concerned with improving their roster. And if that means they get some value from their rival, then they'll do it. And obviously Beane was willing to do so. The main thing with this is people were talking about this after the draft on like how our wide receiver ranks looked. It was pretty common knowledge that, I don't want to say common knowledge. The speculation was that Kansas City wanted Xavier Worthy. They wanted another speed threat on their team in addition to Hollywood. So I don't think there was any threat of them coming up and getting Keon Coleman. And then we traded to 32, and everyone knew that Carolina wanted Xavier Legette. So there was no threat there either. So at worst, we missed out on Pearsall. So at worst, Coleman's probably wide receiver 6. At best, he could be wide receiver 4, and they may have valued him over Brian Thomas Jr. So I do think that there was an element of fear there with, there were some separation questions as it relates to Keon Coleman. I want to clarify those a little bit. I do think he has some issues with separation, but his release package and burst off the line is really, really good. Especially if you go back to like his Michigan State tape, you'll see a different player, so to speak. He's running a more diverse route tree there, and he was showing a little bit more against press coverage. Hands are elite. He's great after the catch, so he's really, really good at just creating space with a quick burst and also with his size and his physicality. So weaknesses is kind of how he sets his players up at the stem, whether he, keeps them, whether he plays it as inside or outside, and then his break off of that needs to be a little sharper. I think guys like Shakir and Curtis Samuel, who played at Washington, can help with that. And I do think some of the separation issues are a little overblown. I do think he has some issues with it, but I think a lot of it was just Jordan Travis has a lack of anticipatory throwing skills. Like he would throw to spots a lot where Coleman was waiting on the football, or he would wait to see the guy open and then throw it, and then the corner recovers. He was forced into a lot of contested catch situations, which hurts your separation numbers, where they ran him on a lot of screens and fade routes in the end zone because of his hands and his size. But on the screen plays, sometimes Travis would throw it and it's not open at all. So that hurts the separation numbers. But also, I mean, there was a play in LSU where he was completely covered up, and the player guarding Coleman intercepted a screen pass because he was just standing there and he threw it anyway. And there's just a ton of times on tape where he was just late with his throws, things like that. In college, you can get away with it. Where Coleman is another LSU one where Coleman's running a post, and he had his guy beat by a yard or two, which is plenty of separation. And by the time he threw it, he was waiting over his shoulder, and the guy catches up to him. So that hurts the separation numbers, but he had plenty at the time. So his deep speed's not amazing. He's not going to run away from anyone after 20 yards, but I do think that there's a lot of the stuff in the 10 to 20 to 30 yard zone that can be improved upon. And I think that just takes some better coaching and such. So, and like I said, that's not to say doesn't need any help in that category, but it's definitely part of it. So I do like the fit as an X receiver. I do wish he had more speed, but I think his attitude and his work ethic are going to take him a long way when it comes to that.
So do you think if the 49ers had not picked Pearsall, that maybe you guys would have picked Pearsall?
No, because I'm giving that as a throwaway because we don't know that. I think there's better information on Worthy and Leggett, right? So the only one we don't know about is Pearsall, and he's so similar to McConkey, and we passed on McConkey for Coleman that I do think that there was probably they wanted a certain type of receiver. They wanted an outside X-sized receiver, even though some think he's more of a big slot, which I think he can do that. I think they're going to move him all over the place, but he'll be the starting X, which is the boundary receiver who has to deal with press coverage and things like that a lot. But yeah, I think he was probably wide receiver 5 on Buffalo's board ultimately. And if they think he's wide receiver 5, I'm just going to trust him, even if he wasn't mine. He was like 9 for me, I think. But I had guys from wide receiver 5 to wide receiver 12 graded pretty closely anyway. So it's like at that point you're picking which red flag you're okay with, Like, right. Do you want to deal with the speed? Okay. That's Coleman. Do you want to deal with a guy who has injury issues? That's Ladd McConkey. Do you want to deal with a guy who's an older prospect? That's Leggett and Pearsall. So you're picking what red flag you're willing to deal with at that point, and the top 3 guys are gone. So what are you going to do? You just got to take the one you think fits best.
Okay.
I'm going to run through the others a little quicker. I just want to give that breakdown because I think it's necessary with Keon Coleman to give that because that's the question that most fans have an issue with. And I don't want that to be something you go into the season and just feel like, oh, we got this guy that doesn't really fit. He can fit for sure. Mm-hmm. Like I said, there are some positives about his route running, I think, that can be built upon. And his agility is good enough to make his route running much better, unlike players like Gabe Davis who didn't have that agility. Yeah. Next is Cole Bishop, 28th pick of the 2nd round. I really like him as a player. He's better as a box safety or a strong safety. He does have the athleticism to play in the free safety role. He's going to need some time for that. I think his instincts aren't there in that level yet, but I do think he was a player that they were obviously very high on, who they probably had as their safety 3. I was more like safety 6. I had like a mid-3rd round grade on him. That's not far off from the end of the 2nd round. And if they see a fit for him and they're great at coaching up safeties, I'm fine with that. 3rd round pick was Dwayne Carter. He's defensive tackle. He is a lack of pass rush moves, but he does have a really good bull rush. He's got a quick off the snap. He needs to work on his run defense. He's a little bit of a medium-sized defensive tackle. I don't know what his role is going to be outside of a rotational defensive tackle long term, but he's going to be a very good rotational D. He reminds me a little bit of who's the guy we got from Washington? Tim Settle? Is that who it was?
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me of a more athletic version of that. So
okay,
he's I think he's going to have a really good role in this team. He could fill in for Ed Oliver at the 3 tech in a pinch, but he's going to be a player that I think he's going to get a good 20, 30, maybe 35% of snaps. Ray Davis, 4th round, running back. I like Ray Davis. He's a good receiver. He's like a little bowling ball out there. He's got good burst, good vision, but I would have rather had a double dip at wide receiver here to hedge our bet.
Yeah.
He's just not a player. I would have waited on a running back till later. I think that you can get value at running back late in the draft more so than taking a stab on a 4th round pick. You could have taken him around 5. You probably would have been there still. I know there was a run on running backs, but I think he could have still taken him there. So whatever. I like him as a player. I would have rather double dip there. I didn't remember if Troy Franklin was available still at that point, but I would rather have a Troy Franklin or another slot type of wide receiver or a Z receiver. Okay. Cedric Van Pran, this is probably the best value we got in the draft. He's a center from Georgia. I don't think he's got guard flex. I mean, I guess he could do it, but he's got really short arms. But at center, it's not as big of an issue. I mean, he 3-year starter, 4-year starter. I think he's all SEC, played for a national champion. I love it. Love the leadership. We got a lot of guys like that in this draft that have leadership qualities, and we're captains. So next, Edefon Ulofusio, or Ed Ulofusio, linebacker, Washington. I think this guy's a really great athlete. I think he could be on a rotation with us. He's good to fill in a pinch. They obviously did not want to have the same problem that they did last year against the Chiefs where all of our linebackers got hurt. So he fills in as another reserve player. Love his athleticism. Don't love his lateral agility, but I think he could get better at it. But he's more of a straight ahead thumper, in my opinion, with some solid cover skills. So I think he's a good reserve player that could ultimately be an upgrade over Tyrell Dotson. Javon Solomon's next, defensive end Troy. Really short defensive end, 6'1", really long arms though. Led the nation in sacks for the last 3 years as far as his combination. And last year he led the nation in sacks with 16. So he has production on that level. And we miss that. We have a lot of guys who create pressure who don't finish. He probably is more of a 3-4 outside linebacker that rushes the passer versus a 4-3 end. I think we can coach him up, get him in the right spot. He could be a situational pass rusher for us. Tylen Grable, good athlete, tackle, throwaway, 6th-round pick. See what you got with him, and maybe he develops. Maybe he sits on the practice squad for a year, learns a position. I think he'll have the Richard Garage treatment where he's going to be probably on the roster in 2 years if he makes the team and we don't cut him. Two more picks. Daquan Hardy. We needed a backup slot. This guy should have probably been drafted higher. He has a legitimate chance to make this team. And he has awesome return ability. I think that was part of the reason we took a stab at him, is because we don't have like a solidified returner. And then last, Travis Clayton. He is a ex-rugby player. He's in the Pathway program, the NFL. Never played a snap of football in his life. He's 6'7", 308, and he runs like a 4.8 40. So he's like a freaky athlete, you know?
So what position?
Tackle.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think he'll ever make the team. We'll probably never see a football field. But just like with the player who the Eagles left tackle, they got him through the same Pathway program. He's a starter, Pro Bowler, all-pro player at this point. He has that kind of athleticism. So I know why they took a stab on him at this point. And at the end of the draft, you're not getting any receivers on a double dip. I was mad at the time because I was so desperate for a double dip. But, you know, we're not getting the guys probably making the roster at that point. So take a stab on the super freaky athlete and then call it a day. So overall, I would call this draft probably a B+. It would have been an A- if they double dipped at receiver. Took Ray Davis, maybe
that bothered me.
Yeah, a few picks later, take Ray Davis.
Following you real time on Twitter at X. And
on X.
Yeah, that was you were kind of.
But overall, we filled all of our spots.
Yeah,
right. We filled all of our needs in the draft that we had, and I think we figured out some depth things that we dealt with last year in the playoffs. And I do see us going into maybe the hired gun edge rusher in free agency after June 1st when we get some more money, or potentially another receiver that has some deep speed. But outside of that, I mean, we're not going to have the superstar talent like we had last year, but maybe that's a good thing for Josh to be able to spread the ball around a little bit, you know?
Yeah. And
not be so forced into dig situations. So
it'll be interesting to watch because it's definitely going to be a different dynamic there that we haven't seen with the Bills.
Yeah.
Years. So
absolutely. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on Washington, or if you have any questions about mine, I can kind of go in more in depth. It's totally up to you.
No, I mean, I wanted you to touch base on the Keelan Coleman, and I was wondering if you thought that maybe the Bills wanted Pearsall, but it sounds like everybody kind of wanted their guy. And at the end of the day, you know, Brandon Beane was like, you know, I don't care if they want to trade up and get somebody because I don't think they want to get who we believe in anyways. And this is a fine path for us, and I respect that. Something very similar happened with Washington, which I'll go into in a minute. But I mean, I guess my big takeaway from the draft is if I had to grade it, I'd give it maybe a B for the Commanders. If you watch ESPN and all the pundits that are on there, I mean, everybody gave them like A+. You'd think they're going to win the Super Bowl, but obviously we don't know. And then on Kevin Sheehan's podcast, he had, I wish I could remember the source, but it was somebody that does these rankings. And what they do is they take the national or the average projection for each player of where they're supposed to go from all the, you know, the talking heads and everything. And then based on that, if you took the person before that average projection for where that player was supposed to go, that means it was a reach. If you took them after, it means you got a very valuable pick and it was a good pick. And that's how they come up with a score for you. You do that and go base it on that. The Commanders didn't do so hot, which is surprising. But if you do look at it, you know, obviously Jaden Daniels was taken where he was supposed to be taken at 2. We did have a great pick with Johnny Newton. We got him 10 picks after when he was supposed to go. And I think that's just because needs for other teams ended up being more important, and it worked out great for us because according to Adam Peters, we really wanted him anyways, and we didn't think he's going to fall to us. And they actually, according to Adam Peters, they considered moving up a couple picks because they were worried he wouldn't be there, and he ended up falling to him. So that was huge. That helped him. Sanastrill, that's another one. I never heard of this guy. I'm sure you have because you're a college guy and you're truly a Michigan fan, Alex, whether you believe it or not. I'll never forget. And he ended up going. I mean, this guy, it seems like you heard what what's the guy's name that said he was the pound for pound best player in the
Nick
NFL
Saban
draft. Nick Saban.
Nick Saban, yeah.
So I'm super pumped. This was a great pick. But after that, if you actually look at the projections, so, you know, we definitely reached on Sennett, Bill Sennett, that tight end. He was supposed to be a third rounder. We got him in the second round. Brandon Coleman's another one where he was projected for 101 and we got him at 60.
Okay.
So part of that, Alex, is, I know that we tried to trade up for a tackle. Actually, there's a lot of talk about us trying to get in the teens in the first round. And if you look at that, that probably means we were either going after maybe Jordan Morgan or Mims, maybe even Guyton, one of them.
Yeah.
And we couldn't make it happen. So you can't look, you have to have a trade partner, right? You can't just say, well, they should have traded up. You have to have a willing partner to trade up. They weren't able to do that. So, that is a big need for us. It's actually still a weak spot for us, even though we got this guy, Brandon Coleman. So I don't blame them that much for reaching.
Can I say something about that?
They have to do. Yeah.
Real quick. So Sanistril, first of all, is really, really good. He might be the best football player.
He was a wide receiver when he first came to Michigan.
He's a good athlete, plays a slot corner spot. He could they said he reminds him of Taron Johnson for Buffalo's maybe the best slot corner in the league. So I kind of see that in him.
Yeah.
I don't think that was a reach. I think that was
this one was absolutely not. I wasn't saying that one was a reach. You did great on that one. Yeah.
Sennett was a player that athletically reminds me of a Jordan Reed kind of player for you guys back in the day.
Yeah, a lot of people are thinking Chris Cooley too.
Or Chris Cooley, same kind of player, right?
Yeah.
He was really good in college. This wasn't a great tight end draft. So after the first one went, it was kind of a crapshoot on who's your flavor.
Right.
Washington they called their shot. He was the second tight end taken. They had a choice of whoever they wanted, and they wanted a tight end. Just take them, and they did.
If you fall in love with a player, go for it, man.
Yeah. And then Coleman,
about the projections.
Coleman, I know they list him as a guard. Y'all list him as a tackle. Y'all missed out on the other guys that you wanted. And then what did you backfall to a guy who I believe is a tackle? He has really good arm length. He's a good athlete. They're looking at projection here of look, we missed on the guys who are guaranteed. They've been doing this for a while. We want the guy who can mold into a left tackle.
That's right. I mean,
that was a good move in my opinion.
Yeah. But you're right. In the draft, when they called the pick, Goodell, I guess it's somebody else at that point said tackle. Mm-hmm. And the guy on TV said, oh, he's a guard. So obviously, they told him tackle because that's what they plan to do. Yeah. And they've come out and said that too. So
Paulson said that he liked him as a tackle also, Logan Paulson. So I always thought he was a tackle too. I know he played guard some. He played a little bit of tackle. He did a little bit of both, and they try to project him this way. But
this is still a huge weak spot for us. I mean, if you look at our roster,
it is.
I should have pulled that up, who it's going to be, but it's nothing. It's not great. So as far as our line. So, so we'll see. But I don't blame that one. But believe it or not, Luke McCaffrey, I love the pick. He went a lot earlier with us than what he was projected to go.
Yeah.
But I get the connection there. Obviously, Adam Peters has history with that family. Totally understand that. And then that other one, McGee, is that linebacker we picked. We picked him earlier than projected as well.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're in that late of a round, does it really matter? I don't know. And then
it doesn't.
Yeah. So overall, I'm happy with it. I'm excited. One thing that really bothers me, and I saw a video of it yesterday because it was on X, is this video of the Eagles celebrating when they actually were able to get what's his name? The wide receiver that they ended up getting. Or no, not wide receiver, cornerback.
Cooper DeJean?
Cooper DeJean.
Yeah.
And because they traded up with us, right?
Yeah. No, you gave it away, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of similar. I mean, it's a division rival right there. Why would we let them get this player, which a lot of people on my side thought we would pick? Again, Kevin Sheehan was a huge fan. I really trust his judgment. He's usually right about that. He was like, you got to get this dude. He's awesome. Yeah. You got to take into account how important kickoff return is going to be this year with the new rules. This guy was seen perfect for that. And we let the Eagles take that spot so we could get him.
They felt comfortable at safety. You obviously felt pretty comfortable at safety.
I know, but just seeing that video of the owner, Jeff Lurie or whatever, and
they got Quinyon Mitchell, who is the best corner in the draft, and then they got the best safety who can play corner.
I
and
know.
that's Cooper DeJean.
And that's what they needed, right? Their defense really is what hurt them last
They've
year.
got a
So,
they've got
it
a
just drives
bunch
me
of
crazy. I'm so bitter just thinking about them showing them celebrate. What's the GM's name over there that everybody acts like he's a god?
Roseman.
Yeah. So whatever.
It's funny because they've got a cornerback room that like is eligible for retirement and Social Security. You know what I mean? Like they're all like 34, 35 years old, and they needed somebody to come in and fill in and be the next guy. And last year their pass defense was not good, so it was logical. Everyone knew what they were doing. That's the thing. People give them so much credit. Like Roseman's missed a few times, and they give him all this credit like he's just amazing. He is a great GM, but we don't know how these players are going to pan out. We know what the mock drafts say. You know what the mock tells us? The mock draft says this guy's ranked high. The league didn't see it that way. The league saw Cooper DeJean as a second-round player. So when we say like where the reach is, right? We just know where the reach is based on like pundits and people who aren't experts. They do this for a living in some respects. They don't know anything really.
I agree.
So,
and that's why I get excited when I see these draft rankings from the pundits on TV, and we were at A plus.
Yeah.
But guess who also was ranked? Got a grade of A just a couple years ago? Ron freaking Rivera.
Oh wow,
that didn't work out so great. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. I am really happy with this. I see the logic in the picks, even if they were a reach. We just have to wait and see, and that's why I'm cautiously optimistic.
Do you think that the next move, because I want to get into that too, like where do you see the gaps still in the roster? And what do you think the next move should be? Is it left tackle?
Yeah, but at this point, what are you really looking for? Free agency period started already. I mean, what else is left? I don't know.
There's a June 1 cut. So there's part of the June 1.
Oh, that's true.
Stuff that's coming
true.
up.
And you maybe you can bank on a team that's just a little overloaded in that position.
Or drafted a guy who came in, who filled a spot for someone, and they're like, "Oh, we got this guy. We don't need this guy anymore."
I mean, honestly, this is naive. I'm being naive, or maybe this is me being cocky, but I don't see many holes other than the O line.
Yeah, the tackle position, really just the tackle
and linebacker. I mean, but we added a line. Well,
you're
we got
fine
Wagner. We got
Luvu. You got Luvu and Wagner.
We got Luvu. Yeah, right. So
and still have what's his name? Jamin Davis.
Jamin Davis will be in there. I mean, we just picked up another big defensive tackle, and a lot of people were mad. What are you doing? I think it's a great pick. You can never have.
He was the best player available.
And their the coaching staff, their whole mantra is you've got to blow up that line. You've got to disrupt the line right off the bat. Yeah, I'm excited about that part. We did sign Sam Hartman. We actually gave him a lot of guaranteed money too. $200,000 and a signing bonus.
That's pretty good for a UDFA. That's a lot of money for them. Yeah, I mean, he was the first one to go. Like it was the first call they made was Sam Hartman.
Right. It was really fast. So obviously we wanted him, and it is intriguing. So Heather will like that pick, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Women love Sam Hartman.
Yeah, women love him, dude.
Yeah. They call him like QB Jesus or something. I don't remember what it was.
That's right.
Yeah, he's got that long, flowing black hair. You know what I mean?
That's right.
But I thought that was a good pickup. I hope another Kirk Cousins thing doesn't happen to you.
Yeah.
Because Hartman's better than Jaden Daniels. And no.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
No.
Yeah, I like that move. I think he just, again, it's value pick. If they saw a lot of value in that, he wasn't even a pick. He was after the draft. I mean, that's probably cheap in the long run if he ends up being any good. So, I love that pick.
As far as ours goes, like the gaps, I mean, I still think we need a speed, boundary speed. We have speed. We have Curtis Samuel's a 4.31 guy. We've got Khalil Shakir's a 4.43 guy. Plenty of speed there. KJ Hamler's a 4.27 guy. Plenty of speed. The thing we need is a boundary threat that can go deep and run like 9 routes and posts and things like that. That's not really Curtis Samuel's game.
No.
But I will say this, something I thought about today was Samuel was signed to a contract that's very similar to starter money. And when it happened, Shakir, everybody said, what about Shakir? Because they thought he was the replacement for Shakir, or Shakir was going to take a back seat, and no one wanted that. and then we traded Diggs. And that was 2 or 3 week period in between, right? Maybe a month. And now we kind of see it in hindsight, being 2020 is like, well, it was always Diggs. They knew they were going to trade this guy a month before it happened.
Yeah,
I won't buy anything else.
Wow.
I think that they had this on the docket already. And Samuel was always the idea to be our starting Z wide receiver, which is like your outside guy who plays off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And that was who Brady wanted. Brady had him in Carolina,
Yeah.
So I think that, really what we need now is that, but I don't think it's coming. I think that there was a lot of people after the draft, like, we're going to go trade for somebody. I don't think any of that's going to happen. I don't think anybody should get their hopes up. I think that's done. I think this is the receiver room we got. We just brought in Claypool and Quintez Cephas to compete with Tyrell Shavers and Justin Shorter and KJ Hamler. It's going to be a competition. They're going to run with 5 receivers going into the year. We're going to run a lot of 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, and they're just going to have to eat whatever that is. And then next year, there may be a receiver available, or we might draft another one, who knows, to fill in the room if it doesn't work. But this is kind of, I think, what we're looking at. So I can see us.
Josh Allen feels about this.
Supposedly, this is what happened last year. Josh Allen wanted Dalton Kincaid. Josh Allen wants Keon Coleman. We don't know that. I think that there was some idea of like, these are some of the guys I like, and they got him, and now it's like Allen always wanted him. I think that he was happy with the receiver, and he was one of the guys. Bean probably said, "Hey, we're looking at these 4 or 5 guys. Do you like them? Tell me what you think. What are your pluses, minuses on them?" Because he loves the draft too, supposedly. And I think that when we got one of the guys, he was happy.
Yeah. Is he still dating Haley Steinfeld?
Yeah.
She's pretty hot.
Yeah. I liked her in Hawkeye. Remember she was hot in Hawkeye? Yeah. She's been a couple. She was in Pitch Perfect too.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. She was in a couple things.
She was in a Western or something once, those too. It was pretty good. But good for him, man.
Yeah, man. Good job. Yeah. So yeah, I think the only thing we can really expect is potentially a pass rusher after June 1 when we get some more money. We're gonna have $10 million freed up. That's probably what we're doing.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of though, did you see that Joe Burrow's new girl that he's with, like an OnlyFans girl now?
No, Joe Burrow.
I mean, maybe that's not true, but I saw that pop up. I was like, damn, these quarterbacks, man.
Joe Burrow better be ready with his wrist, man. That's a bad injury. From what I know of that injury, it's like you may not recover ever the same flick of the wrist. Like you'll never have that kind of snap ever again, potentially. So the guy already has arm strength issues. That could be a problem for him potentially.
Yeah, apparently he traded his long-term girlfriend, got rid of her to date this OnlyFans model.
I didn't know he had a girlfriend. I thought he was single.
Yeah,
I don't keep up with Joe Burrow, so
it is a rumor. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, you got anything else?
RG3's wife's pretty hot too. That's
God. We're just going through all the quarterback.
Which again, that one is really surprising to me. No offense, RG3, but he's kind of ugly. So, can I say that? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Whatever. I don't care. That's fine. Yeah. All right, man.
All right.
Well, don't forget, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell in the comments. I'm going to share this as my first video. We've done a ton of videos, but this will be the first one I share out on Twitter. See what kind of traction we can get. So if anyone sees this, please subscribe to the channel. We do these every week, and as things happen. So if anything breaking news or anything like that, I try to jump on as soon as I can in between my actual job. So anyhow, all right, Kevin.
All right, Alex. Later.
All right, guys. Thanks.